Anna Carson here. How are you? I hope you're all well. I am starting to need a lockdown haircut. It's been a rather long time since I've had my hair done. Anyway, first world problems. Today I wanted to share and talk about anger towards the masculine. It has been something that has been certainly coming up for me this week, and through my conversations and client sessions and stuff, I can see that it is a collective thing as well. Do you know that it's in the collective field that this anger has come up, and this frustration, and needing to be able to move through that, to be able to come into more of our feminine and in our softness, but find the strength and the boundaries and the love and the resolve, while still maintaining this. It was really interesting, and I started the week, really starting to feel some of this anger coming up. Seeing that a lot of the people who are fighting, or who are really standing up for their rights and standing up for children, and with all of the stuff that is going on at the moment, and all the people that are doing the work and doing their personal work, the majority of them are women, and really feeling that desire for them to see more of the men, more of the masculine coming forward and taking a stand, and really standing in their strength and their resolve, and standing behind us, or beside us, even better, so that we do this together as a team. And I know I'd recognize this in my own relationship, in my own family. It was my son, who's only 8, but he's one of my biggest activators and healers, and he has really been so instrumental on my on my healing path. He brings up some of my deepest emotions and deepest fears, and most incredible healing opportunities through his love and through his connection. We have such an intense connection, which has been, there's so much polarity in that. It's been obviously heart opening and beautiful and joyful, and yet overwhelming and claustrophobic, and there's been so many things that comes up through my relationship with him. And this week, he had his behavior had started to ramp up, and he gets incredibly stubborn. And it brought up a lot of stuff. It wasn't really so much for him. It just helps, it brings it up for me. It triggers me, and I recognize that obviously that this is my stuff and it's not really him. And so it brought up a lot of this anger and frustration, and I was really having to work my way through it to find a way, because my desire is to remain soft, but to know that I have very strong boundaries, and that that those cannot be crossed, but I still inside remain soft and open-hearted and loving, but with these incredibly strong boundaries, and because of my own childhood trauma and other experiences through my life, that has been very difficult for me. And so I have created those boundaries, or created that energetic wall, often through anger. Anger has felt like the emotion that I could really use as that wall. It's like, boom, okay, you can't come here. But recognizing that really wasn't serving anymore. That it's not a way to invite union. It's not a way to invite teamwork. It's not a way to invite respectful relationships. And so when this anger was coming up for me this week, I was just like, okay, I can feel it. And I was working through it. And it was interesting because there was, as always, there's a couple of different aspects that come up to help me work through it. I was using some essential oil, and it was black pepper, which was interesting, which was unmasking. So being able to get underneath what was coming through. So obviously, but a lot of the time underneath anger is grief and sadness. And that was certainly, as I used the oils and worked through that, there was certainly a lot of grief and sadness. And then it allowed me to open up into this. I ended up doing a collective session around this. And initially I was working through all the emotions that the feminine felt towards the masculine, the betrayal and the letdown and the disappointment and the anger and the frustration and the disrespect and all of these sorts of things were coming up. And then as I worked through that, and seeing how that was impacting the feminine, we then went through the session, went into the masculine, and then we're really tapping into the emotions that the masculine felt in relation to this, and that was so interesting to kind of being taken on this journey. Where they were feeling kind of grief and victimized, and there was you're being judged and dismissed and feeling inadequate and overwhelmed and confused, and all of these other emotions that the masculine was finding, because they're obviously grappling as well as how do we've come from this patriarchal system that has existed for so long, for thousands of years. And this is collapsing, and the masculine says, okay, so what how do we recognize this isn't how we want to be anymore, but there isn't the role models, and there isn't this and this, and if we have this anger from the feminine still being directed, then it really doesn't allow this space for the masculine to start to feel into and to step into a new way of being, because there's this kind of wall of anger is kind of being met. And so it's so interesting, to see what was happening, obviously on a personal level, but then seeing it on the collective as well. And that through my anger, that I wasn't creating a space, I wasn't creating movement or an allowing to come into some sort of respectful teamwork or union, but my anger had come from my own trauma. Again, from the collective is exactly the same. The trauma that the feminine has experienced at the hands of the patriarchal systems. The anger that is still sitting in the collective is stopping this movement into the more divine masculine expression. And so in the session, I then was working through those emotions that the masculine were feeling, and really kind of clearing that conflict that existed within you, because that body wisdom, that desire to bring something else forward, to start to express that divine masculine, was kind of then being was in conflict with the mind and the kind of, well, this is how it's being done, and I don't know how to do it, and there's the fear of the unknown, and we don't, there's this whole kind of confusion. And so really kind of trying to untangle all of this, so that releasing that like you say, that feminine anger, and that sense of kind of victimization and everything from the masculine, to then empower both to come forward, and again coming into this masculine feminine interface, and a way, okay, can we actually see each other and react to each other and maintain our boundaries, but in a really respectful way, but actually come into union. And that the last part, so having done the collective session, I then had a session with my biodynamic osteo, and I was still feeling some element of anger. As we were working, I went into the grief and the sadness and the disappointment. And then after that, it was just like, okay, it's, this desire to want to be soft, to stay open-hearted, but to have my boundaries respected. And And what we then worked on is really being able to bring my resolve forward, because my resolve previously had never felt strong enough of an energetic wall to stop that encroachment of my boundaries. And so really what it was, okay, now it's strong enough. I can bring that forward. And instead of using anger as that energetic wall to maintain my boundaries, I can actually just use my resolve and know that my resolve is strong enough to maintain those boundaries, and that I don't need to utilize anger, that I can just sit in that, no, this is it. This is how I expect to be treated, or this is the boundary that I'm setting. And that resolve is strong enough to meet whatever resistance is coming forward. But then it allows me within that to maintain my softness, my open heart, and maintain a heart connection with the masculine. And so it was just beautiful. It was so powerful for me to kind of watch that progress and watch that kind of unfolding over a few days, and going through the emotions of the anger and the frustration and the disappointment, and then going into the sadness and the grief, and then really coming into that more empowered space. And again, seeing that reflected then in my family and in my relationships, of going, okay, this is a new way of us being able to relate to each other, being able to work with each other, being able to come together. You're not just with my son, but with my husband, and in the general. And obviously, as we're doing collective work, because all the time, and I've said this so many times, all the time that we're doing personal work, we're doing stuff on the collective, there has this ripple effect. It always does. And some of us are obviously a lot more tapped into the collective, and doing that work at that level. And that's really what I was seeing, is we're clearing this way more and more and more as we become more empowered and let go of these trauma responses, because that's what anger is that trauma response. The only way I can meet that is through anger. I can release that and actually just have that resolve being strong enough, and my own self-love, my own respect for myself is strong enough to be able to meet any resistance or any attempt to encroach on my boundaries. So yeah, it was just beautiful, and it really helped me to see that this is again, this is another step towards union, a step towards coming together, working as a team, and really you're moving forward with so much more empowerment, and determination, but without that, like you say, that negative, or that that negative anger driving it. So yeah, I just thought I'd share it because it felt really important, because I know, like I said, through many conversations, I know that this anger towards the masculine has certainly been a theme over this last week or two. You're just, as we're doing this work, it's always really good, I think, to share our experience of it, how it's showing up for us personally, and how it's then being shown to us through our guidance or through our work or whatever, and how that is shifting as well, because every time we're coming through that, every time we're being shown this. So I've just got this tiny little bird just sitting on my window, so it's gorgeous. Just wanted to acknowledge it. That we are really helping this shift, so that we can move more and more into this new world. And this is certainly the message that I'm getting, is focus forward. This is what we need to be doing, is focus forward, focus on what we're creating, focus on how we can come together, focus on what it is that we're wanting to work towards, what it is that we are wanting to create. That all of the stuff that is happening in the external at the moment, the crumbling of the systems, all of this is behind us. We want to have it behind us. We need to keep an eye on it. I'm not saying ignore it. We can't ignore it. It is right in our faces. Keep an eye on it so that we know. But our job is to stay one step ahead, or two steps, or however many steps we can be ahead of the game, so that we can be prepared, and we can be preparing for this this new, what we're creating, this new earth, this new way, whatever you want to call it. That's where our focus needs to be. That's where our energy needs to be. And we allow all of that stuff to happen almost in the background as much as we can. Obviously, it comes into the forefront, and when it does, it's there because we are needing to heal something from that, and then we allow it to fall behind us again, and we keep marching forward. So this was my next step, and I hope by sharing it that it helps you in some way or another. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, and how you are navigating all of this. I'm sending you all lots of love wherever you are in the world, and wherever you are in the lockdown process, and with your homeschooling or whatever you're doing. Sending you all lots of love. This is, tricky times, very, very tricky times, and we're having to do so much work to really maintain that connection to our hearts and connection to our trust that this is all going to work out in some way or another. So lots of love to you all. Hope you have a beautiful weekend, and I shall speak to you again soon. All right, bye.